And we are live.
Okay. Welcome everyone. Good evening and welcome to the 73rd budget hearing and annual meeting. I would like to call the budget hearing to order and report that the agenda was posted prior to the meeting and was published in the district's official newspaper, the Superior Telegram. The first notice was at least 10 days prior to the meeting, and the second was published not more than 8 days or less than 1 day prior to the meeting. A meeting notice was also posted throughout the district and on the district webpage and published in the Connection. A summary of the budget was mailed to all box holders at least 10 days prior to the meeting according to state statute, and a detailed copy made available to the public on the same day. The purpose of this hearing is to explain the budget for the 2022-23 school year and then allow citizens to ask questions about the budget and make suggestions to the board about the budget. We do have some ground rules, however. All speakers should raise their hand, and if you have something to say, please state your name and your township or village so that we can have that for the record. Each speaker will be allowed one turn to make their presentation, and again, if you're making a motion also, please state your name, township, or village for proper recording. Please address all questions, please direct all questions to the chairperson, and the person should be recognized before speaking. Any questions regarding procedures used or business proper for the meeting can be referred to Dr. Sarah Croney, Superintendent for the school district. Okay, at this time, Dr. What's it?
I move that all questions and comments from tonight's meeting be also included in the minutes for the meeting.
Okay, and should we have him state his name and for that or no?
I know
Mr.
him.
Strebler.
I know the guy.
Still in Maple.
Mr. Strebler.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, Dr. Croney and Mr. Cody Fetchicott, business manager.
We need a second.
And then voting on that.
Oh, okay. So we had a motion that all questions be recorded and added in. Do we have a second?
Judith Cheney of Rule, I second that.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. At this time, Dr. Croney and Mr. Cody Fetchicott, business manager, will explain the budget.
First, I'd like to do some introducing. Cody Fetchicott, our business manager. Peggy Janigo, executive administrative assistant. School board president, Mrs. Dana Livingston Matherly. Sherry Olson, our school district clerk, and Adam Landwer, our board treasurer. As far as the handouts, informational booklet for the 73rd budget hearing and annual meeting includes the budget hearing and annual meeting agendas, the 2021 minutes of the meetings, treasurer's report, and enrollment information. The budget proposal contains budget definitions of funds and accounts by code. There will be two meetings tonight, the budget hearing and the annual meeting. The purpose of the budget hearing, it allows electors a chance to ask questions, review the budget, and give input to the board. The budget hearing or annual meeting does not have the authority to change the budget. The school board takes the suggestions into consideration before their final approval of the budget. The budget is not approved at this meeting. The tax levy necessary for the proposed budget is recommended for approval at the annual meeting. The board approves the final budget on October 11th. The school board determines on or before November 1st the tax amount necessary to be raised to operate and maintain the school's programs in the district on or before November 10th. The school district clerk will certify the tax levy to each municipal clerk. Point of order, I'm wondering, is it October 11th? Because I think October 11th is a Tuesday, just because of the WASB regional meeting. Isn't the meeting?
It would be October 10th.
10th. October 10th is when the board would approve the final budget. Mr. Fetchicott will assist in the presentation of the budget. Explanation of the budget format, please refer to the booklet entitled 22-23 budget proposal. The educational plan would be pages 1 through 9. That summarizes the implementation of the budget during the 22-23 school year. Page 9 includes the school board goals. Budget structure is on page 10. Budget summary would be page 11. It includes total figures for receipts, expenditures, and the proposed tax levy. Budget summary by funds is on page 12. It shows actual receipts, expenditures for the 2021 budgeted amounts for 2021-22, 2022-23 as required by state statute. The major funds, pages 13 through 14, the format of the budget is developed according to the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting Requirements, WUFR, to provide more information and to promote uniformity. The system is based on fund accounting. A fund is defined as an account that has its own beginning and ending balance from which funds are received and expended. The funds are as follows. Fund 10 is general fund. That would be pages 15 through 24, a major category that includes the general operations of the school and school programs. Fund 21 is the agency fund. That's found on page 25. Receipts and expenditures for student-operated activities and clubs. Special Project Fund 27, pages 26 to 28. It includes monies received from the federal government for designated projects such as Fund 27 federal handicap projects, flow-through, preschool entitlement, and all of special education. Fund 30 is debt service fund, pages 29 to 32, receipts and expenditures for paying of long-term indebtedness. Project Fund 40, page 33. This is the fund where receipts and expenditures are recorded for construction projects, including capital maintenance. Please note that annual meeting agenda item number 7 includes a resolution authorizing the district to continue to implement a Fund 41 capital expansion fund. Fund 50, pages 34 to 36, receipts and expenditures are recorded for operating the food service programs. Fund 70, page 37, receipts and expenditures held in trust for our various scholarship funds. Then the 2022-23 educational plan. The proposed budget is for the continuation of and to maintain the same basic programs as provided last year with some additions. The instructional staff for the 22-23 school year includes early intervention services, EIS, with special education at Northwestern Elementary and Iron River Elementary schools, which are subsidized through flow-through dollars. The areas of art, music, physical education at the Iron River Elementary and Northwestern Elementary schools will be staffed to support, maximize, and balance all elementary itinerant classes. The district will continue with the 4K program with on-site programming at Northwestern Elementary School and Iron River Elementary School. The 4K program is open and accessible to all age-eligible children of the district at no charge. The Tiger's Den before and after school childcare is again offered for students in grades kindergarten through 8th grade during the school year, weekdays that school is not in session except for holidays, and when summer school is not in session. This is the 4th year that we're offering Tiger's Den childcare for 4K students on opposite days when school is not in session for them. The district also provided summer school and an open house summer school for 2022 in grades 4K through 12, which can also be counted for FTEs as declining enrollment continues to have a profound effect on our state aid. We plan to continue with summer school in 2023, including an open house summer school program. For the 22-23 school year, we're operating full-time, face-to-face instruction with all grade levels. We are in the second year of the ESSER 3 grant funds awarded to the district in the amount of $1,151,758, which funding can be spread over a period of 3 years. In 21-22 and October of 21, a public hearing was held to gather public input as to best serve our students in light of learning loss due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Items included are increased staff for better student-teacher ratios, the addition of a mental health navigator and a transitions coordinator, and additional counselors to address student mental health, anxiety, and depression caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The in-school course offerings to students in pre-K through 8 will be essentially the same as last year, with technology and telecommunications being used to supplement the curriculum. The district is in the second year of offering one-to-one technology devices for students. At the high school level, articulated college classes with Northwood Tech College, and dual credit courses with UW Superior include English 222, 3 credits, UW Superior Calculus 240 and 241, 8 credits, and AP Advanced Placement courses in English Literature and Composition, Chemistry, and Calculus are offered. New for the 22-23 school year is AP Government and Politics. The Academic Success Center at the high school assists with providing online curriculum coupled with group activities focused on college and career readiness goals. A school to work component is also part of this program. Block scheduling will continue at the high school and the middle school for those students attending on site. All curriculum materials continue to be updated and revised on a rotational plan based on the availability of district and federal funds. Revisions are a result of standards and assessment mandates by the state and federal government. The process is handled through building level principals, department chairs, and curriculum committee. As part of the Wisconsin PI 34 requirements to provide highly qualified teachers in the district, a teacher mentor program is conducted for all newly hired instructional staff with an initial educator license. 5 support seminars are conducted throughout the school year for the new staff on topics pertaining to student achievement, teacher performance and expectations, and other areas related to the daily routine and classroom management. In addition, staff development days are used to review, evaluate, and align curriculum to ensure the school district is meeting the accountability for schools system as set forth by DPI, Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, through the Wisconsin Student Assessment System testing. Each year, schools receive one of 5 accountability ratings based on an overall score that results from performance in the following priority areas: student achievement, student growth, closing gaps, on track to graduation, post-secondary readiness. Poor test participation, dropout, and absenteeism rates can reduce priority area scores. DPI will be publishing state performance reports cards sometime this fall. Students also receive educational programming opportunities through extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Students may participate in drama, forensics, athletics, music, and many other club activities. These programs are considered to be an integral part of the total education program. The district will continue to implement the educator effectiveness evaluation requirements established by the Department of Public Instruction. The purpose is to improve professional practice in order to improve student outcomes through quality data, identifying areas of strength as well as needed growth. Mr. Fetchel-Cotter, you're on.
I'll try to follow it.
Yeah.
The proposed budget is based on estimated costs and increases that either have occurred or will occur during the fiscal year. Those costs reflect supplies, materials, equipment, utilities, insurances, wages, and requirements by the Department of Public Instruction, the state, the federal regulatory agencies, as well as the current law revenue limit formula. Section 65.90 of the Wisconsin state statutes requires school districts to annually publish budget summary of all funds. The first summary shows the general fund and debt service fund. These are the funds that affect the local tax levy and state aid. The remaining funds operate with transfers from the general fund or from other aids that include local taxes and or general state aids. The summary of these funds, receipts, and expenditures is shown on the bottom of page 12, table 1 of the budget book. State law requires the 5 columns shown representing the budget. These columns include the account definitions of major accounting groups, code series for the major accounting groups by revenue and expense, the prior year actual expenditures, so the 2021 actual expenditures, the budgeted amounts for the 21-22 school year, and the proposed budget for the 22-23 school year. Total proposed expenditures for the 22-23 school year from the general fund are $17,024,285 and $3,828,505, or $828,505 for the debt service fund, for total expenditures of $20,738,543. Anticipated receipts for the 22-23 school year in the general fund are $17,024,285 and $3,828,505 for the debt service fund, for total expenditures of $20,783,543. It is anticipated that the local tax levy collected plus the general state aids and other state and federal and local receipts will not fully meet the projected costs required, which will result in us assigning fund balance to cover the likely upcoming costs of the fiscal year. It is estimated that approximately 56.2% of the revenue for the 22-23 school year general fund will come from state aid. Approximately 28.7% will come from local sources, and 15.1% will come from other sources. The estimated tax levy required to finance the 22-23 school year budget is $8,444,809. This includes $4,576,301 for the general fund, $3,828,508 for the debt service fund, and $40,000 for the capital project expansion fund. The dollar levy decreased from last year's estimated at $201,423, or a 2.3% decrease from the prior year, not including the lottery credit. Anticipated enrollment for the 22-23 school year is approximately 1,301 students. State aid is based off of the school district membership, which is anticipated to be right around 1,230 students. 2021 audited budget revisions will be approved at the regular October 10th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. The adjustments are primarily a result of matching actual audited expenditures and revenues to the budget. At this point in time, we'll entertain any questions on the budget that our fellow community members have.
That's where we get to ask questions.
That's where you get to ask questions.
Mr. Strebler?
I have a couple questions in relation to the budget. One was on revenue. I know you mentioned when we were talking about this here, but the special project grants under ESSER 1, 2, and 3, we haven't been getting any revenue from those, but yet we budgeted $600,000 for next year. I'll answer that one first.
So ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 dollars have been spent and allocated as it's part of a 3-part series that dates back to President Trump actually initially, and then President Biden after that. So ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 have been allocated already. A lot of our ESSER 1 dollars went mostly to, that was in the heavy part of COVID. We went to cleaning supplies, masks. I think we spent well over the $126,000 that we had allocated. The ESSER 2 dollars, the majority of those funds went to the stage conversion project. at the elementary school. That's where, because of space issues, we converted the NES stage into 2 fully functional classrooms that are now being used by Tiger's Den in our 4K classroom. And then ESSER 3, last year was a combination of staffing, paying for teachers and also mental health counselors. And then also some curriculum came out of there, if I remember correctly. And I'm blanking on one of the other costs. The plan for this year and the following fiscal year is to make that strictly be staff. We're trying to keep our class sizes low and teachers and mental health providers in our districts.
So that's why it's budgeted for the coming year.
It's budgeted for this year, and then the goal is to budget it for what would be the 23-24 school year. All those funds need to be expended by the end of the 23-24 school year.
I have another question, unless somebody else has questions I want to consider recorded. Okay, that's in relation to the retirement. Our retirement costs have gone up quite a bit in the past 4 or 5 years because we implemented a retirement plan. Okay, and I asked you some questions previously today about that plan and the costs. And I know it's a very expensive plan, and I know that it's going to become more expensive. And so I've just got a thing here that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to read it. And that's one of the reasons why these questions and answers are so important, because they end up in the minutes. Or they're supposed to always end up in the minutes. And then if there's a time when the minutes are corrected, then they end up in the next year's minutes, et cetera, down the line. But anyhow, so this has been a project that we had to tackle as a board, but I'll read it as I say it here. To the 2022 annual meeting, school board administration and community members. I'm a taxpayer in this district, want to draw attention to our new retirement plan. It is an expensive plan for various reasons, good and bad, but I will just refer to a couple of the bad reasons. It was not introduced when advised, causing a larger assessment when it was introduced. And there is an inequality of payouts, which most groups looking at a maximum of $20,000 for 20 years of service. One grandfather group had $60,000 for 20 years of service, and one group at $80,000 for 8 years of service. This inequality alone is projected to cost our district an additional $400,000 within 5 years. If we need to go to a referendum within the 5 years, the driving force will be from this plan. Any questions that you have on that?
Not for me, no.
Comments?
Nope.
Okay, then I'll give the secretary a copy for
Thank
the
you.
business office, for you, and for the president,
We'll make sure the statement gets in the minutes.
and incorporate it in the minutes.
If you want.
Thank you.
It'll be in the minutes, so. Oh, this is for Dana. Sarah, go wait.
Thank
Okay,
you,
I'll
Mr.
make sure you
Strebler. Do we have any other questions? Yes, please, just give her your name and where you're. Sorry.
It's okay. Can you just help me understand just what is included in the tech services and tech rental as well as the property rental?
Property rental is the building that we rent as a district. It's actually right up the road here. You drive by it right on Highway 2. We call it the Zimmer building. That's offsite storage. We've used that for, I don't know, 10 plus years, maybe, the exact history of it, but it's temperature controlled. We store a lot of different things up there, but still close enough where we can access it. Technology services, the lion's share of that is our siting contract. Siting does a whole lot of behind the scenes things for us, network monitoring, cybersecurity. There's a ton of different programs that we're required to have now. If we want to get insured, essentially, it's becoming a huge problem, cybersecurity. We all hear about the breaches, the hacks of personal information. Obviously, as a school district, we carry a lot of personal information on not only our employees, but our students. So they are our 24/7 monitoring service. And on top of that, they also have a tech here 2 days a week to troubleshoot any of the the in-house stuff that we have, whether that be technology, computer related, network related, printer related. His name is Tim. We like Tim quite a bit. He's been a great addition, and
We also get services though, pardon me, for the other 3
Yep.
days of the week.
so he is.
Any needs.
We have 24/7 monitoring. If our network is down, and the unfortunate truth is that I know my job is tied to the internet probably more than I would like. So if that thing is down, it's tough to do what we need to do. It's tough for teachers to teach, and thankfully, a lot of the hard work, not from myself, but the previous Mr. Stafford and other exciting employees, we've got a pretty reliable network in all of our buildings. And I think the last one you talked about was technology rental. Those are printer leases. We lease our printers throughout the district consistently, have gone mainly to that.
What are Xerox machines?
Yep.
You under that too, Cody?
Yep. Basically as far as I'm aware, any printer that we have, any copy machine that we have, or combination of the two is a leased service at this moment in time. Any other questions I can answer for you there, Ms. Everhart?
Not yet.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more question. This one doesn't relate to the budget. This is just a generalized question I want to ask. And I think Dr. Cronin's the one to answer. And the question is our district providing the best education for the students in the community with the staff, the capital and non-capital items compared to data that we have at our disposal?
We are today. We will not be in the future. There will be no question that we will not have the funding necessary. As you are well aware, we had a 0 increase on the allowable per pupil expenditure last year. We got another 0 this year. You cannot sustain the quality teachers that we currently have with a 0 when the inflation is double digit starting now. So as of today, yes.
Right, and there's good and bad. One thing you notice is if you look at our revenue, our assessed valuation has been higher the last couple of years, which has helped us. And I would guess we're going to benefit from that yet this year. But in the following year, the year coming up, we're probably going to face a decreased assessed valuation, and that will cause a tighter fit.
I do. I anticipate our assessed value to go up quite a bit. It's going well. We've all heard the real estate stories and what it costs for property, housing, all of the above. So I will not have that number officially from the state until October 15th. That's when we get certified.
It should be up this year. That'll help us out. I don't predict that it's necessarily going to be up or stay the same even the following year.
So it helps us in the aspect of it helps the taxpayer. It's a little bit of a teeter-totter for us. The more money that we get in equalization aid, which is driven off of our equalized property values, the less money we get in property tax levy.
Yeah.
So a $300 increase, in equalization aid does not equal a $300,000 increase in our budget.
At
It's
all.
taken off the other end. Essentially, it's pulled off of our tax levy.
It depends on the year.
It does, but it is a balance. It's a teeter-totter. The more weight that goes on one end, they take off the other end to make it balance out essentially.
Yeah, I understand that.
So without continued support of our state to try to figure out how we can potentially move revenues, Dr. Cronin alluded to, nothing is cheaper anymore. Our utility costs for everybody, we've all felt it. Our cost to put diesel and or propane in our buses has gone up immensely. And unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's gonna go down anytime soon. And we have to get our kids to school, we have to keep our buildings heated, we gotta keep the lights on, but all of that stuff is increased costs without increased revenue.
But until we get that decrease, we should be okay.
I hope so. Yep, that's the plan.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Beth Everhart, town author. So to that point of increased utilities costs, are we looking at any alternate sources, solar, wind, to fuel these facilities?
So we will always look for opportunities that are out there. I know Mr. Stafford, who was obviously in this chair before I was, did look at that there is some work regarding a solar field, both at this building and over at, what I remember is it's at the middle school that would feed both the middle school and elementary school. So I believe the initial cost of that project up front will be around $1.2 million. So it was more just exploratory at that point in time. Depending on what we see with grants and potentially taxpayer support on something like that, we do see more and more schools trying to add solar as an option for offsetting some of the utility costs. For us, it'd be a field, not necessarily a roof. From what I've been told, putting on roofs, at least in this part of the country, is not necessarily the most efficient way to do it. But it is something that I know that he looked at. I have not looked at yet, but we've had conversations around potential options to do something like that.
Go ahead.
On page 20, I'm not sure if you know. Can you define what miscellaneous benefits and other employee benefits are?
That's essentially our page 20, so there.
Yeah. The first block of things towards the bottom.
Yep, that's our, basically our post-secondary retirement benefits.
Now, how about the other employee benefits? Does that fall under this?
That's under, it's under the same umbrella.
Okay. And then further down, property services?
Yep.
What's defined? I mean, I see that 2020, 21, 21, 22 was about the same dollar figure. Budgeted for this year is up, but the actual expenses in 21, 22 were significant.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different stuff. I believe Mr. Stafford talked at last year's meeting, so some of the things in there are bills coming due. We replaced all the south side windows at NES. That project was, I believe, right over just under $108,000. We finished carpet replacements for various rooms at NES. We've done some water systems updates, that the water system that serves our middle school and elementary school. We've done some building control updates. KFI Engineering has done an energy efficiency study with that. And then part of that is the stage conversion project that occurred last year as well too. So that's why that number, the actual expense, is quite a bit higher than the budgeted expense.
Yeah, and like I said, I just wanted clarification as to what was in there.
Yep, so a lot of bigger projects that needed to happen. Paving at the middle school on the north side, if you've been through there, that was part of that cost too.
And then my final question, page 25, school activity income. What's defined as school activity income? Because the actual revenue is I'm going to say $450,000 in 2021, and actual then last year was $165,000 difference. I guess I'm wondering why the big spike, why the drop when the budgeted amount is the same.
So that's student. So Fund 21 is all our student activity accounts. It's not actually an account that we can touch as a district. We basically just house it for different activities that we have. So that's fundraising activities for our athletic teams, any of our clubs, any of those things, along with, I believe our musicals and things are in there as well too. I think that's Fund 21 as well.
The key is if kids don't do the fundraising, they don't, it's less money.
Right. No, well, I guess I was just looking at the difference there. Why such a drastic
Part of
difference?
that, I believe, was some of the school force money. We did some logging. This was a number of years ago. DPI had to change some of the coding requirements that we did. They do that every once in a while. They change how we're basically Fund 21 became a place where we had to put that on the short term. So there is a lot of ebbs and flows with that from year to year. It's just the reality of that particular account, but it's not any money that the district can use. It's set aside for our student activities.
That's all I have.
Can I add something on that last one? So as a coach, so Oliver Hawthorne, as a coach in the district, because of COVID, it was much more difficult to organize and plan fundraising stuff. And so that might be partly why that number dropped as well during that one frame, because at least in girls basketball, we did nothing for fundraising that COVID year because it was a more difficult situation.
Well, I think that wasn't 2021. That's the second half of that year is when it went to pot, right?
So we did not,
All right.
we did not do any fundraising that year on purpose. We made a personal choice not to do any that year, because it's gone. So that, I mean, again, we would just be a very small piece of that, but that could be across multiple sports.
It's a difficult thing to project because we just don't know exactly.
No, I wasn't trying to question, the motive behind anything, or I was just wanting to know why such a drastic difference in that one particular line item. Makes sense.
Mr. Strebler?
Wasn't there something where you got the students in for a lower rate or no rate at some of the games too? Would that be fitting in here?
That did happen during COVID.
Yeah,
High school only.
High school.
that was on high school only, but we don't collect a lot of money other places for events. We collect most of it in high school, correct?
That's correct.
I would assume, so. I don't know of any other
That
places
could
we
be a
charge.
possible.
As far as I'm aware, I'm not aware of any other activities, whether it be athletics or extracurricular, that we're charging any kind of gate outside of high school.
Is that same line item, like, when my kids are in sports and I pay per activity, does that go into this line item or somewhere else?
That goes somewhere else. So
That we are allowed to use.
Yes.
This we are not.
student activity fees, different
Where
category.
does that get?
That would be, let me take a peek here. That's gonna go under revenues. I gotta try to find the page here, sorry. I got it up on my computer and I don't have the printout.
Admissions,
Admissions is part of that, but then there's also student activity fees.
that's page 16.
Yeah.
16. If I'm saying
Yeah,
that
you're
correctly.
correct. So admissions is gonna be our gates. In terms of that aspect of things, and then other school activity income, that encompasses, no, it's not all that, but some of that. Student fees and things of that nature, that if your student or students are involved in any kind of activities, that's where that fund goes.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Yes?
Good, Janie from Rural. I had a question back about, Ms. Trevor talking about, we've gotten 0 more state aid. What causes that? Like, what's the process that the state decides what we get and what we don't get?
Since we received ESSER funds, they use that as their excuse to give us nothing.
So we just get what it's been,
No, we did not get any per student increase for the inflation that we've experienced.
oh yeah, so
Nothing.
that's still at the 9,400 or whatever.
Yes.
Whatever it's been at the last few years. Okay.
So yeah, our revenue limit it's been in place since 1993. It basically dictates the amount of monies that schools get from the local taxpayer and then also from state equalization aid. So that formula has its roots in 1993. So districts that were fiscally responsible in 1993 are still based off of that information in some ways. So essentially that revenue limit is what drives approximately 80 to 85% of our budget. Those are the revenues that we get to operate day in and day out. That's a combination of local tax levy and also equalization aid from the state. So Dr. Crony is correct. They have not, they looked at the ESSER dollars, the federal dollars as kind of the bump, for lack of a better term. We've invested the majority of those dollars into staff, and we want to continue to do that. But like I alluded to earlier, we're all feeling that the cost of everything else is not any cheaper than what it was last year or the year before. The state will begin the next budget process, the 23-25 biennium budget. So we will see kind of how that goes at the state.
Will our ESSER funds have run out by then, or like, or will we,
The
they no longer be looking at the ESSER funds?
The ESSER funds need to be basically spent by the next school year, the 23-24 school year. The goal is to have money in there to continue our staffing ratios, but after that, we know that those funds will not be available beyond the 23-24 school year.
And then we're just hoping that the state looks at that and says, oh, they don't have that money anymore, so
There's
give them more.
There's a lot of school districts that are, the term that they use is fiscal cliff. And that's just the stark reality, that that if the state does not come in and try to attempt to support us, at least give us some kind of inflationary increase in the revenue limit, that'll be difficult. Those will be hard times.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
So what are we doing as a district to audit and say, this is absolutely mission critical and what is not?
This year it already started. We originally, at the beginning of summer, had 4 classroom teachers at NES for 2nd grade, 3rd, 4th. As attrition occurred and those teachers left for other districts that no one faults them, they each received at least $10,000 increase by going to other districts, especially up in ESCO, Proctor, Superior. We did not replace those, and so we are operating at larger class sizes and have 3 teachers instead of 4 for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That netted a savings which assisted us this year, so that has already started. It has to start. The difficulty that I have is that our district received about $1,100,000 for our ESSER 3 funds. However, our neighboring district that is not 12 times as large as us received $12 million. So we are pressed against Superior for comparisons. They gave bonuses, raises and such. We could not do. And it becomes continually difficult to keep the great teachers that we have.
So how is that happening there and not other places?
It was based off the Title I funding, and so there's much more poverty there than is here. And that's what they used for the distribution of it.
That's
We're
not
being
unique.
penalized.
That's not unique. The majority of those funds went to the urban districts or suburban districts. It's just the reality.
So I have to ask, so you look at staff, what about non-instructional positions or content that is not mission critical, or what else was looked at? Or is equally
Every position, anytime there is a resignation,
programs and
it has to be analyzed before you would reoffer. But we've been lean already. And there's what's called maintenance of effort for special ed. So that becomes a bar that you cannot go below or you get penalized as a district. So support staff positions for paras and special ed and teaching staff and such, we cannot go under what we are having for student count for special ed. So then again, you have to keep looking at, can you get real close, but you don't want to spend over for the special ed. So you got 2. Which one? Mr.
Sorry.
Strebla had his hand up first.
If you have somebody else take your question.
Go ahead.
Becky Landwehr Butler. Can you clarify, you said larger class sizes in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, can you clarify what size those classes are?
22 students in 2nd grade, where they were projected to be at 17 or 18. In grade 3, I think it's 23. In grade 4, I think it was 24.
So we're still within our goal.
Oh, yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Trevor Bowman, my question follows her lead on the special ed. I noticed there's a decrease in money spent on special ed. Is that because we lost a person and now we have more students for that person? Or is there a special ed population decrease, or what's the combination?
So basically we have exceptions that we can put in. So the easiest one I can give you, and this is not a realistic or not an example that we have this year, but if a teacher with 30 years experience retires, they're going to be at the top of our scale in terms of pay. And we hire a brand new teacher out of school. Obviously, the pay difference there is going to be potentially $30,000+. So we can put in that exception to say, hey, look, we've decreased our total cost of special education, but we haven't decreased our services, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we did have a few positions turn over. So even though that number is 1.7 million in change, roughly what we call our Fund 10 to Fund 27 transfers, a little bit lower than what it was last year, which was more about 1.8. We're not decreasing special ed services. I still have a pretty good pulse on the special education world because that was my old hat here. And I can tell you that our numbers have not decreased, our needs have not decreased in special ed, but it's, again, goes back to staffing has changed in terms of how the cost of paying people because of experience, but the services haven't necessarily decreased. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does.
Yes?
So I have, I guess, two. One is, you had mentioned that we get state funding on, I think it was 1,230 students, yet we have 13 something. Can you explain how we get funding based on those students that are not part of that, not the 1,230, how that funding works?
So yeah, it's student count. Student count, you think it'd be really easy. So there's what we call head count, which is roughly 1,300 students that come into our district every day, give or take. But part of that population is 4K students. We do not count those as full-time FTE. They're counted as a partial because they're not here all day, every day, which makes sense. Part of that has to do with open enrolled students, both in our district and out of our district. So essentially the state does that differently. We basically subtract our open enrolled students in, we get paid for them, but in a different type of formula. And the students that live within our district bounds, but open enroll out, come back into that residency count because essentially we're fiscally responsible for those students. So if a student open enrolls to Solon Springs, essentially we pay Solon Springs, and vice versa. If a student from Solon Springs open enrolls to us, they pay us too. So the head count helps us understand how many kids we have walking through our doors. The residency FTE is what drives our revenue limit formula. So it is apples and oranges in terms of, you look at head count to determine staffing, so we look at membership FTE to determine funding.
So on follow-up, where are we at versus out in open enroll? I mean, so I'm assuming we're positive there, but what's
So, and this is still being finalized, so these are numbers that are in flux. We're approximately 150 students open enrolled in, and I think that last count, this January, you might be looking at, I think they're about 97 or 98 out. So plus 50-ish students is what we have in terms of that. And that could include open enrolled out to other districts, that could include open enrolled out to virtual schools. Just depends on what the situation is for the family and the student.
So my second one was, so you mentioned the class sizes at the elementary school at NES at 22 for second grade. And again, I think this is a tough question, but in Iron River, you have 15 students there. In grade 3, you have, there's 3 extra students, so you're 23 per class roughly, and you have 13 students at Iron River. That, to me, as someone who has kids at NES, that's a tough pill to swallow. That you're in an unequal playing field in the district.
It will never be perfectly equal.
Well, but you're paying a teacher the same basic salary for 13 students that you're paying another teacher that's got 23. That's a rough sell.
It's gotten a lot better now that we're in only 2 schools, rather than before we had the one building. My last year before we went to NES, I had 34 students in Langdon Bagman, and Sherry Hendrickson and Maple Corner had 12. So, and I don't know exactly what the other schools had, but at least now we're down to just the 2 schools to make it more
And part of what,
equal.
and part of what we're running into is, we have parents who, I mean, it really makes sense when you think about how we are as a society now. Many of them work this direction, and they need, it's hard for them to arrange for their kids with their pickups and their before and after and different things like that. It's so much easier for them, where they got an older kid that's already headed this direction. And so they've made a request, not because they don't like the other school, but just because of, for financial, reasons for their family. So that's kind of been a little bit of the difference too, because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there's meetings in July or August where we get those requests, sometimes even a little later, where they're asking, to relocate based on where they're working and what direction they got ahead.
In most cases, they're asking to come to NES. So I guess my further question, and I know this is a hot button issue, at what point do you look at not funding an Iron River situation and putting everyone in one situation or one district in one building area rather than funding a separate school that is on an edge of the district?
We seriously looked at that when we had an enrollment of 68 students there. And the interesting component is that since the ESSER funds have been able to be used to now have full-time teachers there, because for several years, we did not. We had full-time AM for math and ELA, but in the afternoon, you combine 2 grades for art, music, PE, social studies, science, and it was 1 teacher for 28 students, 1 teacher for 29, between the 2. But those numbers have gone from 68 to 102 because now there are full-time teachers. The amount of open enrollment from South Shore, Drummond is dramatic. And those funds help fund the district for all 13 years of those kids' education. And it's helping to offset and fund other programs. Because those kids, once they open enroll in, they don't just stay for elementary, they stay and they graduate. So all of that has been factored in. Easily, 17 to 20% of the district's revenue comes from Iron River area alone. So without that, having that school and having that tax base, our whole district would be hurting even more. So all of that gets factored in and all of it does get discussed. And it got seriously discussed when there were 68. But there's no longer 68, there's 102. And it's growing. Kindergarten, I don't have the figure in front of me, but I think it's 22 or 23. That's healthy. That's more than what NES kindergarten teachers are dealing with. They've got 18, I think. So we do watch it.
Yeah, it does fluctuate.
It does.
It's always hard to interpret.
But last year's kindergarten, it's still healthy for first grade for this year. So keep them coming.
There's younger population over Iron River now than what there was 5-10 years ago.
But it's open enrollment, Mr. Strebler, that is a huge factor.
I believe, not sure, that there's not, I get what you're saying, because I don't disagree with you at all, but I don't think there's room at NES right now, even if you wanted to bring those
That's
things over.
true.
You'd have to have a capital fund issue to.
How is that? Because there's only three teachers for second, third, and fourth. Other pots have 4 rooms.
But if you take kindergarten, where would you go with kindergarten? Where would you go with first? Where would you go with fifth?
But what is in the extra room in the pod in 2, 3, and 4?
In 2, 3, and 4 right now, you have special ed.
In one of the rooms.
So there's 2 rooms.
Yeah.
So there's some space.
There's some space, I'm not
The
saying
only
that-
answer would be moving 5th grade over to the middle school. We saw how that went 7 years ago. But I'm saying that is an answer. It is an answer.
And it's an answer we talked about.
But there's no room there either. Is there? at the
Yes, they
middle
did,
school?
they did do a plan of how they would be able to do that. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. From previous school board meetings, there is a cap on that number, correct, of students that can come from Iron River to NES for work reasons or whatever it is for those families.
We were
There is a classroom
looking
cap.
at that for 2nd grade this year. So if it didn't go over 25, we were okay. But as soon as it went over 25, we would have said no. So the answer is
25 is essentially the
the number that we would not have
chosen
allowed.
as
Sorry,
a
if you're
classroom, we're
person
not going to get
26.
that.
So every request that we had this summer If it would have put us over the 25 threshold, the board, at least I would have recommended to the board, no, you've reached your cap, they need to stay at Iron River. But this is the first year where we've gotten really close. But it ended up, we had some students leave, and so we turned into about 22.
We have had a few too, I think, that have, it's not as common, but that have requested to go
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
that's
way,
true.
where they're
Yeah.
requested to go
One,
to Iron River, but they're not in Iron River.
one mom
district.
worked at North Lakes Community Clinic and wanted to have her child close.
And then you're too, also don't, you know, if you're gonna say no to those that were open enrollment, you can do that anywhere. So if we're saying no to people that wanna actually come to our district and say no, and, you know, who knows if they'll take their student elsewhere. We just, I mean, that's money right there too that we'd be losing out on.
Mr. Strickland?
If there's no more questions, I move we close the budget hearing.
I have one more.
Yep, go ahead.
So with the talking about the open enrollment and, you'll say that we had kids go to school and so on, kids came here, do we pay them the full child amount, and do we get the full child amount?
No, it's about 8,000, is it 8,800 or 8,200?
8,224, I think, is the exact
Is
number.
what they pay us and what we would
It's
pay?
not the full dollar amount,
Okay, so it's,
both ways.
and then are all the districts around us, do they all get the same dollar amount per child? We're all the same, we're not,
Unless it's
We're not
special
paying
ed.
The only
superior
difference is
more money than.
no, it's a flat rate fee for students that are within the general education population and a flat rate fee for students that are within the special ed population.
Okay, so we're all right around that 9,400 number or whatever.
No, as far as what,
No,
They-
so like, so if a superior child came here and one of ours went there,
It's a net,
We're
it's a net
paying-
wash.
the same, we're not having to pay them more money
No.
than what we're, okay, so I'm
Nope.
thank you.
Okay, if we have no more questions, there a motion to adjourn the budget hearing so we can proceed with the annual meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mike Brown makes that on.
Okay, do I have a second?
Excited.
There's first a motion and a second. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Okay, all right, looks like we're gonna just keep moving, guys. So, I will call the meeting to order and explain the purpose of the annual meeting is to complete the business on the agenda, including the approval of the tax resolutions that were explained during the budget hearing. The ground rules of the meeting are the same, and those that were explained at the budget hearing. I'd like to call the annual meeting to order and report that the agenda was posted prior to the meeting and was published in the district's official newspaper, the Superior Telegram. The first notice was at least 10 days prior to the meeting, and the second was published not more than 8 days or less than 1 day prior to the meeting. A meeting notice was also posted throughout the district and on the district webpage and published in the Connection. At this time, Sherry Olson, School Board Clerk, will conduct the election of a chairman for the meeting.
Nominations are now in order for chairperson of the annual meeting.
Get a hard vote,
Oh.
I nominate Dana Cole, Denise Natalie, chairman.
Are there any further nominations? Are there any further nominations? Right, nominations are closed. Dana Mather Livingston Matherly is the chair for the 2022 meeting.
Okay, thank you. Included in the informational booklet are the minutes of the 2021 annual meeting. These minutes are provided for your information. It is not necessary that they be approved at this meeting. They are just for informational purposes only. I would ask that Mr. Landwehr, Board Treasurer, give the Treasurer's report for the 2021-22 school year.
The cash and investment balance on July 1st, 2021 was $5,016,437. Total receipts from January 1, 2021 to June 30,
July.
July, did I say January?
We did.
Total receipts from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 were $25,610,136. The breakdown of this amount is the general fund, $17,593. What am I doing here? $17,593,760. Special education fund, $2,772,581. Debt service fund, $3,661,033. Capital projects fund, $40,002. Food service fund, $1,172,918. And the education trust fund, $369,842. Total disbursements from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 were $26,632,711. The breakdown of this amount is general fund, $18,619,314. Special education fund, $2,808,746. Debt service fund, $3,724,658. Food service fund, am I reading this a second time? Okay. Food service fund, $1,040,048, and the education trust fund, $402,847. The cash and investment balance on June 30, 2022 is $3,993,862. The breakdown of this amount is general fund, $2,379,253. Special education fund, $0. Debt service fund, $379,576. Capital projects fund, $415,317. Food service fund, $317,727. And the education trust fund, $501,989.
Thank you, Mr. Landwehr. And my apologies if you were wanting to look at that. I don't know if you found that or not. That is on page 9 of the information handbook. Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I move to approve the treasurer's report.
Do I have a second?
Mike Randall, Lakeside, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Mr. Fetchicotter will read the correspondence received from the CPA firm, Clifton Larson Allen, stating the positive results for the 2021-22 audit fieldwork.
This is a signed letter from Brock Guyan, CPA, Managing Principal at Clifton Larson Allen. Dear Board of Education and taxpayers of the School District of Maple, the field work for the audit of the financial statements of the School District of Maple for the year ended June 30, 2022 has recently been completed. As part of the audit, we have audited the cash and investments, accounts receivable, accounts payable, long-term debt, revenue, and expenditure balances of the district. We found the district records to be in good order and the district staff to be responsive to our inquiries. The information presented in the treasurer's report is in agreement with the audited amounts. The formal audit opinion and financial statements and management letter will soon be available in the district administrator's office for distribution to the Board of Education and for public review. Sincerely, Brock Guyan. I'd just like to take a quick second, give a shout out to kudos to Wendy Stoddy, Penny Lavin, Jen Keller, and Jackie Gammons. I have not been in this chair very long, so a lot of that work was done by those 4 ladies up front. So essentially the letter says we're in good financial standing in terms of the audited processes that we have in that office. So.
Thank you, Mr. Fetchicotter. The budget and the tax levy requirement were explained at the budget hearing. Mrs. Olson, our school board clerk, will read the resolutions for the 2022 school tax levy required for the 2022-23 budget of $20,783,534 for the general and debt service funds and capital expansion fund. Okay,
One, resolved that the school district of Maple, Wisconsin, levy a 2022 tax against the 2022 equalized value in an estimated amount of $4,891,271 for the purpose of operation, maintenance, transportation, and capital outlay. Two, resolved that a total of $3,828,508 be levied against the 2022 equalized value of the property of the school district for the retirement of debt previously authorized by the electors for the payment of principal and interest on such debt. Three, be it further resolved that a total of $40,000 be levied against the 2022 equalized value for the purpose of pre-financing the cost of future building and site replacement in the Fund 41 Capital Expansion Fund. A total of all levies represented in 1, 2, and 3 will amount to $8,759,779, which will be levied against the 2022 equalized value. The 2022 mill rate will be determined after the equalized value is received from the Department of Revenue.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Olson. I do need a motion to approve the tax resolutions.
Peggy Janigo, Town of Hughes. I make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Adam with Poplar.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be the report by Mr. Fetchikotter on the annual revenue limit exemption for energy conservation per section 121.91 sub 403 of the Wisconsin statutes.
The school district of Maple has utilized the energy efficiency exemption to the revenue limit formula for building upgrades. This has been done for upgrades which would not be achievable under the revenue limit formula and property tax levy as it's known. Pursuant to state statutes, the district signed a performance contract with McKinstry totaling $4,496,481 for project implementation and subsequent annual performance reporting for 9 upgrades. The largest being the complete replacement of the HVAC system at Northwestern Elementary School. This project at NES upgraded to provide fresh air to all areas of the school, including classrooms, which would not have been achieved with the original obsolete and aging system. The annual expected performance savings was $55,838. This was exceeded by the realized performance savings of $59,466. So in addition, there's a capital cost avoidance savings of approximately $63,517. This project was initially completed in 2014 and is financed with a 20-year general obligation bond. And included in that performance contract is a report by McKinstry that will be provided for us for that same period of time.
Need approval for that or motion?
It's just a report.
Yeah, that one's just a report. However, I got another one coming up. A resolution for Fund 41 authorizing the district's capital expansion fund for pre-financing the cost of future building on-site replacement as needed in accordance with the guidelines as set forth in Wisconsin State Statute 120.10 sub 10M. Such expenditures shall be financed with the operating levy. I do need a motion to approve the Fund 41 resolution.
I so move. Jim Strummer, Colin.
Second? I second.
Jeremiah Black, Poplar, second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It is necessary each year to set the salaries for the members of the Board of Education. The current salaries are President, Clerk, and Treasurer, $3,000 per year, Vice President and Directors, $2,900 per year. And it's also necessary to authorize the payment of actual and necessary expenses of a school board member when traveling in the performance duties and the reimbursement of a school board member for actual loss of earnings when duties require the school board member to be absent from regular employment. A motion is necessary to approve the board member salaries and reimbursement for the 22-23 school year. Do I have a motion?
Paul Everhart, Hawthorne, I would make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Judith, Janey, and Rule.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. A motion is necessary to authorize the school board to schedule, excuse me, the budget hearing and annual meeting at a time other than the fourth Monday in July. According to Wisconsin State Statutes 117.08-09 and 117.27, no annual meeting can be scheduled before May 15th or after October 31st. A motion is necessary to approve scheduling the budget hearing and annual meeting other than the fourth Monday in July. I need a motion.
Mike Randolph, so moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, are there any other items that are appropriate for this meeting that anyone would like to bring up at this time? Mr. Strubler?
Mr. Straightforward, I have one other item, I think I missed it. We have spent our 41 budget now that we had accumulated, right? And so I think we should make note that next year, one of the things that should be on the agenda is to look at increasing this budget to say like 60,000. So we can start to build a fund here for further emergencies that might come up, such as we have right now to spend it on.
I will indicate, yes, that the fund is being spent but not completely depleted. So there will still be money there.
I think we should still look at it for future.
I will agree that the cost of basically keeping our buildings running is not going down. Nothing is getting cheaper in terms of construction projects going down the road. So,
Did that, to go up here, because I think I asked this at the last board meeting, that particular question to increase that, but that, even if you increase that 40 to 60, that 20 comes out of, is that,
It's
reduced out of Fund 10?
Correct.
It's under the rep, so that we could hypothetically, there's no rule, we could put $1 million in there, but that.
It reduces Fund 10,
It does.
your operating.
Yeah, so that's the balancing, I just don't have an easy answer for it, but I would definitely agree that it would be something to entertain.
For the good of the district, Sarah Crony, Iron River. Housing for new teachers is something that I've been trying to work on through the Chamber of Commerce in Iron River. That seems to have fallen on community members' deaf ears, but it is a creative way of maintaining or attracting new teachers to our district. So it would be something I'd like to see put on the radar for future years. What could happen for housing to attract and retain? Because what ends up happening is our teachers go to Superior, it's the only place they can find housing, and the first position that's open, now they take that and they're gone from our district. So I just would like the minutes to reflect that we think about that for future years.
So noted.
Mr. Straightforward, I hate to keep talking about it. When I came to the district, which was a few years ago, the school district kept the bulletin board, and on the bulletin board, there were houses listed where people in the community could come in and list their houses that they had for rent for new teachers. And that was maintained, and I know when I came, there was 2 or 3 houses that I could have rented that were listed on that bulletin board.
The difficulty is affordability at what we pay our teachers, to even, let alone availability. We do that, and thank you, Mike, for helping our science teacher get an apartment this year. But the housing availability in Superior is drastically better than anything we could offer or find for people now. as new teachers with the salary that they get.
As a housing owner, if you know that you have teachers going in that are going to take care of the place, there are many houses, from my own experience, that could be better cared for by renters, and I would assume teachers are above the average that you would get. And so there are people in the community, if that was noted, that would probably rent to them rather than to other people.
The way it ends up, the vacation RBO is a huge detriment to any
Yes.
ownership. They can earn so much more money through the RBO. And do I have it correct? Is that
Verbal.
VR,
Or Airbnb.
Airbnbs. So it has dried up available housing for our young teachers dramatically.
Do you have any other questions? If not, I would ask that there be a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Here's Jamie and Rule, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second, Tim Schroeder told me.
We have a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting